Hey, what is up all you do-it-yourselfers? My name's Dylan Taylor. This is Dylan's DIY Workshop, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make an easy DIY gift for your significant other this Valentine's Day. Super easy DIY. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a tiny heart button leaf wire bonsai tree. So if you're making this with the wire that I give a link to in the description, you'll be making it out of silver wire. You will need pliers for this, as it's kind of difficult to bend. What I'm doing here is cutting off strips that are approximately 9 inches long, and I got myself somewhere around 30 or 40 of those, just using wire cutters to cut those. And then twisting them all together in a bundle, and I just started at the bottom here to keep them all together. I'll show you how to do it better with the copper wire that I will be showing you next. So this is the first tree that I actually have done. It's the one that is made with the silver wire. I'll leave a link to the silver wire in the description of this video so you can check that out if you are interested. Now, if you don't want to spend money on the wire, you might be able to get away with using some extension cord wire. You're going to want approximately 8 inches long, about the width between your pinky and thumb. For most people, that's right around there. Going to take a blade like such and just cut through the housing there. Peel it out, and the only way that this is going to work is if you've got wires in there that are comprised of smaller wires. Open that wire up, this braided wire on the inside. It looks like that. That's what we want. So to get that wire out, you do the exact same thing. You just cut through the rubber, making sure you don't cut too deep into to start slicing the actual wires. And you'll end up with some wire like this. Gonna fold it over itself like that. Once you have them all bent in two and all stripped, go ahead and grab them, and we want to twist the trunk together similar to the way that we did it in this tree that you guys actually didn't see. So I'll show you here now. If you don't have the finger grip strength, or if you're using a heavier wire like this, a pair of pliers might help you. There we go. And we're just going to leave this extra down here where the loops are. We're going to use those for the roots later. To do that, we're just going to use some wire cutters. Snip it once. So if you want a much more in-depth description of how to do this step by step, I have a step-by-step video on how to make a button tree like this. So it's the exact same as the heart tree that we're making, but with buttons, so that'll have a little bit more of the technique and how-to in it. There'll be a card up in the top corner of the screen right here. So you always want to keep twisting the same direction, which will be whatever you choose. I always choose to go clockwise to the right. Also, for pliers, the pliers that I'm using don't have any teeth on them like any other needle nose pliers do. So that way they are not going to mar up the wire. They're not going to make dents where we don't want them. So I will leave links to these pliers as well in the description. Once we've got it down to our main branches, what you want to do is take off 4 to 8 strands of wire, depending on how thick your wire is. But with this silver wire, I only did 2 strands, so it just depends on what will fit through your buttons and what size buttons you're using. We are not going to be using the giant buttons, we're going to be using the small heart buttons instead. So whatever will fit through, and you want to make sure that you have enough buttons for how many branches you have. So here I'm just going to do somewhere around 8, the extension cord wire. Twist them off so that one individual wire that we're going to be hooking through the button, just like that. And then go ahead and do that to all of the other wires. Easier to do that first and then put the buttons on than it is to do that, put a button on, and then you have a large cluster of buttons that you need to work around. You also want to leave yourself about an inch, if not a little bit more, on each of these wires that you're sticking out so that you can wrap it back around the button quite easily. Okay, so now we're going to open the buttons, the heart buttons. You don't have to use heart buttons to make one of these trees. You could just attach it to a rock the way it is, or you could paint leaves on the end. I have a video, I will put it right here up in the top corner of how to make a tree with painted on leaves, or you could just use regular buttons like this tree, whatever you choose to do. But if you want to use heart buttons like this one and give it as Valentine's Day gift, then I will leave a link to the buttons in the description. I got them from Amazon. They were fairly affordable, and I did get 2 packs because they're assorted sizes, and I didn't quite know how many small buttons I would end up getting. I believe these are 50-piece packs. Yes, they are 50-piece value pack of red heart buttons. Okay, so let's pop this one open. We'll try to do as much of this with 1 pack of these heart buttons to see, and I will only open the second one if we absolutely need to. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is just take out all of the big buttons. We don't want those. They're going to be too big for these trees. And any of these buttons that don't actually have buttonholes in them, we're going to get rid of those as well. There also seems to be, there's this one that has this loop at the back. I'm not going to use that either. So that kind of leaves us with some buttons that have some patterns on them. This one's probably going to be one of the coolest ones. And then we've got these ones. So they're a little bit different shade of red. I'm not too sure how much I like that. So I'm going to set those aside. They're the right size though, so we can use them if we have. So I think that we'll be able to do this with 1 bag. 1 tree for sure with 1 bag. I don't know if we'll be able to do both the trees with 1 bag. So we're going to set those aside. We don't actually need them. See, the reason that I didn't choose the large heart button is just because it would just be too big for this tree. If you had a larger tree, they might be okay. Even this tree, the silver one, it's much larger, but this button's just a bit too big. We're going to start off with the copper tree because the wire is easier to bend. What you want to do is grab your button. Let's see, let's try to get an angle that you can see everything that's going on here. Take your button, and we want to make sure that the branch actually fits through the hole. So that's why the end of the branch needs to be twisted to a point. You can do that with your fingers, just make sure that you don't poke yourself with the end of the wire. We put that on, put the button as far down the branch as possible. See how there's about 1 inch of branch sticking out? And from there, that's where you're going to want your needle nose pliers, or in this case, the toothless needle nose pliers. And about 3/4 of an inch up, or about halfway down the length of the branch from the button, we're going to bend this back just like that so that there's a loop, and then we're going to put that back through the heart button, through the other hole of the button. Kind of hard to see this here, but I'm putting it back through the hole of the button and pulling the button to the end. So we're basically threading the button with the wire and then pulling it tight. So that's what the button's going to look like. And from here we have the wire at the back. Now with the wire at the back, grip as close to the button as possible. We're going to hold on to the tree, push that button as far to the end as possible, grab those 2 extra pieces with the pliers at the back, and just hold on to that while we twist the button clockwise or to the right. And that is only because that's the way that I'm twisting everything else on this tree. So if you've twisted it the opposite direction, you're going to want to twist your button the opposite direction. But what this does is it tightens the wire at the back of the button and holds that button right on the end of the branch. So if we look at it, the button is on the end of the branch, and now the branch is threaded back through itself and twisted around behind the button. So that button is not coming off. And you can tidy that up just a bit better than I did there. With the pliers, you can come back and just twist the last little bit around the branch and just make it look pretty. And there we go. That is 1 button leaf on the tree. So the buttons are assorted. We have this one, we've got this one, and then we've got a whole bunch of the one that I just put on. Now, if you want the tree to have different kinds of buttons on it, go ahead and use the assortment of them. Or if you want it to have all one style of button, you can go ahead and do that as well. At that point, you may want to buy a second bag of buttons if you want only this type of button, because there aren't as many of this in there as there are of the one that we already used. Okay, so in making this, I did cut a few branches off of it just because there was too many branches for the number of hearts. So if you look over here, it gets a little bit cluttered and you can't see that they're heart-shaped. So I did cut off a few branches. What I did is I just came down to the end of the branch where it was at the crotch joint of the other branch, and that's just where I snipped it off, and then I twisted what was left of that branch into the other branch with these pliers. I did, however, go into the second bag of buttons because I needed 2 more buttons to finish this tree. If you want to use all the same buttons, I suggest getting 2 bags of these buttons because they are assorted and they aren't all just the same specific ones. This tree has 1, 2, 3, 14, 15. There's 15 hearts on this tree, so that means that there was only 13 of the exact same button in there, and that was the most plentiful button. But if you need to get this gift done before Valentine's Day and there's enough time to order it, I would just get 2 bags because they're fairly cheap. You would definitely have enough buttons. You don't want to get into this project and not be able to finish it. So now that we've got that, you need a rock that you want to put it on. So you want to get a rock that is going to look nice, but also you do not want a polished rock. So that means something like this, where it's all smooth and glassy smooth. You don't want that because 1, the adhesive won't stick to it very well, and 2, you will see the adhesive. With this matte finish rock, just a rock, you don't tend to get that. You don't tend to actually see the adhesive. So to attach the tree to the rock, we're going to be using contact cement. Now you can use any brand that you want. However, I know that LePage, this one right here, it works really well for this. I've made plenty of trees. None of them have fallen off the rocks with this, as long as they're just rocks. They don't have a glassy, smooth finish. Use this. I will leave a link to this as well in the description so that you can have everything come in all at the same time so that you can make this entire project with 1 box from Amazon, if that's what you're into. If not, you could probably pick it up at the hardware store if you forget to order it or you don't have any. What we're gonna do is brush it on the bottom of these roots right here. You don't want to get too much that is globbing over the top. You just want it to be covering all of it, all of the roots. So we're going for surface area here, just like a tree would. It doesn't really grip very strong in any one spot, but it grips in a lot of places. Get it on all of the wire, but you can't see it on the top. So we're gonna set that down and let that dry. You also wanna know what orientation you wanna put it on the rock. Before, you wanna shape to the rock a little bit so that you know where to set it down. But I know that this is the top and this is where we want it to go. We're going to brush this contact cement on the rock as well. Now this rock's already clean. I've cleaned the dirt off of it. So that's another thing that you wanna do. If you have a rock, clean the dirt off of it. If you have a rock that means something, it might be an awesome way to use that in a gift that you're making for your loved one. And there you go. 1 even thin coat is all that we're gonna need. You don't want it globbed on. What you have to do now is just let it dry. You want to give it between like 5 minutes and 60 minutes, no longer than 60 minutes, because when you attach the 2, they won't stick. But the way contact cement works is you let it dry on both surfaces, and as soon as they touch, it's an instant bond and it won't come off. So we're gonna give this 10 minutes until it's dry to the touch. Also, don't want to touch it. We've let it dry. It is dry. I'm actually working on the second tree now. I think the silver one's gonna look nicer. The other thing is the buttons actually hold on much nicer because of how sturdy the wire is. Oddly enough, there isn't as much twisting that has to happen. Okay, so this is the orientation I want the tree on, and I'm going to go ahead and push down all of the roots so that they touch the rock. This is where you might want gloves, because I have poked myself many times with the ends of the roots. If you push really hard really quick, you can end up with little pinholes in your hand from like being poked by the wire because it's so small. So maybe wear gloves. We want to do this really quick. The adhesive is just going to hold all of what we brushed on the tree right to the rock, and that's why we wanted it on the bottoms of all of the tiny roots too, because all of those roots are going to do their part in holding the tree down. And there we go. That's why you want to have the root system designed before you stick it on the rock, and you make it the exact same way as you make the branches by twisting them together the same way that branches are made, the same way that you twisted the tree. And there we go. We want that to dry for another hour or so, or up to 24 hours for the glue to completely cure, but at this point it'll hold on to the rock just fine, but you just don't want to stress it like I just did there. And there we go. That is the finished tree. You might want to go ahead and write something on the bottom, a little love letter, a note, or even just your signature like I will be doing here. And to do that, the best thing that you're going to want is a fine tip Sharpie marker. It'll write on this wonderfully. We'll let this dry and I will put the buttons on this tree. It's the exact same process. It's just it requires these pliers because of how stiff the wire is. Now it'll be up to you to decide whether you want it to look this color or this color for the tree trunk. I've honestly never made one that's silver, so we will see how that turns out. But if you do want to make it silver, so this is probably the cheaper option, is using an old extension cord. However, you have to find one, and this is possibly a more difficult but better looking option, and you just have to buy a roll of wire. A roll of wire looks like it'll make 2 or 3 of these trees. I'm about halfway through the roll of wire, I think, making this tree. Not entirely sure. I would have to make another tree to see how much wire I have left. Okay, so we now have the 2 trees done. I finished the silver tree. Let's get some more light on this guy. I think the silver looks a lot better with the red buttons, to be honest. Like, it shows up better. It contrasts the tree material a lot better than the copper does. I did, however, use masking tape to hold the roots down while this contact cement was drying, and this saved me holding the roots down by hand. So you may want to do that. Just make sure it's really tight. This tape off. Be careful when you're taking the tape off too, that you don't peel the roots back up. And there we go. And you could just, if you don't want to hurt your hands, just use your pliers to push down. Just make sure that you don't stab yourself with the pliers afterwards. And there we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, maybe learned something new. And since this video is going up a few weeks before Valentine's Day, I can't be giving these to my girlfriend because she would have already seen them. So there'll be a different gift for her and a video for that likely later on. These will both be for sale on my Etsy page. Should you not have the time or not want to actually make one, these will both be for sale and they would still make amazing gifts. That being said, that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon support. You guys are what is allowing me to keep creating videos the way that I do and making this all possible. Thank you so much. And a special thank you to the top tier Patreon supporters, Randy, Robin Bird, and Mike Maxwell. You guys are extra special. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys are new, please subscribe. If you guys are already subscribed, please share this video with a friend. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, give it a big old thumbs up. We'll see you guys all next time. Peace out.